Hello everyone and welcome back to Nagash, which is a channel dedicated to Age of Sigmar, and in this video it's going to be another why play video, but this one's going to be a little bit different because instead of just an army, it's going to be why play Warcry. And joining me in this video we have got Jamie. Now Jamie joined me in the why play Ideneth Deepkin and the why play Blades of Corn video, and is a very good gaming buddy of mine, and we have certainly had our fair few games of Warcry in the past. So I thought he would be a great guy to join me for this video. So Jamie, how are you doing today, mate?
I'm doing very well, thanks, mate. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Right, okay, so in this video, probably won't be as long as some of the other ones because there's not too much to explain about why play Warcry, because it is quite straightforward. But firstly, for people who don't really know Warcry, haven't played it before, or quite new to Age of Sigmar, what is Age of Sigmar Warcry then, Jamie?
I'd say probably the best way to describe it, it's a nice, smaller version, a nice like skirmish kind of game. So the model count is considerably smaller than what the big Age of Sigmar games are, or what everyone's used to. And it's I'd say it's a very nice collector's starting point if you're thinking of starting a kind of like a new army. Everyone likes start off small and maybe work their way up.
Yeah, I'd completely agree. I'd say that if you're someone who's brand new to tabletop and you think I like Age of Sigmar, but you're either don't really have like a lot of people in the world don't have a very big budget, or don't have a lot of time, so you don't know if you can invest in a whole army, but you want to try a little bit of it to see if you like the whole idea of the tabletop. It's a great way like that to sort of dip your toes into the hobby. For sure. And then, like you were saying, Jamie, if you're already an established Age of Sigmar player, you've got one or two armies, and you think like, if you're one of those people who are like, you know what, I really like Seraphon, but I don't know if I want to commit to a whole army. You can just buy some the rules for the Seraphon, which are very cheap in Warcry, and you can make a handful of models and paint up a interesting colour scheme you've had in your head for a while to see if you'd like to transfer that to a whole army, or you go, you know what, I really like what I did, but I don't really want to expand it massively. I'm happy to play it in a smaller sized game. Would you say that's about fair then, Jamie?
Oh yeah, definitely. Obviously, when Warcry first came out, we were actually quite lucky to be up at Warhammer World when it first was premiered, wasn't we?
Mm. We certainly
and
were.
The main question back then was, because only Chaos were actually in the Warcry, and that goes on a little bit with the lore around the time, but obviously since then you can run now all different armies, or I would say armies, skirmish warbands in Warcry.
Yeah, like most races now, don't quote me on that in case someone goes, well, actually, there's slightly less than most, but a lot of races now have rules now for Warcry. Now, how the rules work is this isn't going to be an in-depth tactic video like I've already basically said. This is going to be an overall. So, if you're looking at Warcry and you go, you know what, I haven't got like any of these new fancy Warcry models, but I've got a Maggot King of Nurgle, like Demon's Army, for an example. How do I play this in Warcry? What you do is you get yourself a set of cards, look at them as like War Scroll cards. You pick them up for £6 here in the UK, and that is what you need to transfer your models in your existing army into Warcry. Now, if your army does not have rules for Warcry, in the future it more than likely will do, because they really are expanding Warcry as they go. Like you mentioned, Jamie, they started off with just these unique Chaos bands, and now they've covered a lot of armies, if not the majority of them, for sure. And I think to talk about a little bit of the lore of Warcry, essentially it's kind of like, well, like we mentioned, it's skirmish fighting, and it's set in the like Archaon's realm of the
8 points.
Yeah, the 8 points, and there's like and some major places in the 8 points sort of featured in in the book, like the Baron spine, everything like that, and that's also reflected in some of the models. We have, if we
Yeah, so if we go on and some of the models and like the lore, obviously it was all first based around the first lot of Chaos Warbands, with their urge to. They all had their own kind of beliefs, because obviously none of them are any of the main four gods that everyone kind of knows, but they all had a divine feeling of being drawn to the 8 points, and then they all battle for Archaon's favour. Really, they want to be seen and be seen to get Archaon's favour, to either join his army or just impress him in whatever way their style of play does. And in the new books with, say, the Gloomspite Gits and the Ideneth and the Stormcast, they all have their own unique little lore of why they are there, which I think was a nice little touch with narrative, you know, starting a narrative play of why your little group are in the 8 points.
Exactly, and you can so Warcry, essentially, you know, there's lots of different ways to play it. You can play it, you know, match playing competitively for sure, there's tournaments for it, but me and Jamie both agree that we feel like, for us anyway, when we're playing it, it's a great way to express like narrative play styles in Age of Sigmar. And you have so much lore behind it. Like we say, if you want to take your Stormcast army, learn from the lore there and sort of like go, right, that's a massive grand scale, but how can I basically make this band of brotherly, you know, warriors, how can I create a narrative for them? And, you know, playing games in Warcry really let you express that through like a campaign system, but also when it comes to just modelling your model, because you've only got a handful of models in your army, like I kind of mentioned earlier with the Surf one, you can really express going a little bit overboard with conversion work, and don't feel like you have to. You can take the models as they are, of course, but you can, you know, do that extra level of painting you wanted to, or go like, I really want to have Stormcast that are based in, you know, like the Realm of Fire, that sort of thing, but I want to have it as they've been living there for a while, so they all carry, you've like basically given them all like flasks they have on them, which is water for when they're, you know, going across the heated plains. There's all these little bits of depth, and then like the Chaos Warbands they made for Warcry, they did a nice job of adding a bit of lore for them. Like we have things like the Unmade, which are like from the Realm of Death, Shaiish, which are currently on the screen at the moment, and this is my favourite warband made for Warcry. I actually have these guys to be made at home still, and they're all about I think their quote is like their gift is agony or something like that, or their gift is pain. It's something along those lines. And what they actually do is they believe like by mutilating their bodies is like a way of worship to their god. So the reason why they wear all these sort of like red masks is because they've essentially skinned their faces off and they now wear it as a belt buckle. So that just gives them a little bit of character there. So they're that's why they're called the Unmade. They're not the nicest ones, but it just
that's
gives you
the
an
thing
idea.
about that, with all everything they've written in the book. When you read the books, how we said, it's so lore driven and narrative play. It does. Like we said, you can still play competitive, and there's like definitely tournaments like held at Warhammer World and probably around. But I do think the main driving force is having those quick, fun games of like narrative driven. You know, you get built up with building your characters, building your little warband. Like you say, you can do your conversions to make it all real nice and personal. Because most warbands, it's 7 models. You know, you're probably going between, depending on what faction you are.
It's probably like up to 10.
You know,
isn't
you're
it?
going from about
Roughly.
5 models up to about 15.
Yeah.
Which, in the grand scheme of things, in Age of Sigmar, that is very low.
It's incredibly low, isn't it? And don't get me wrong. I think when I've talked about Warcry in the past, I have said that, you know, like my favourite way to play Age of Sigmar is, if I could only pick one way, is big 2,000 point games. Although that's my favourite way, does not mean that it's my the only way I enjoy playing the game, and does not mean it's certainly the easiest way to play the game. 2,000 points, you need to have a store to play it in, or you know, when you've been around Mind Jamie, you would play it, and I effectively clear everything out of my living room to be able to fit in a table to be able to play the game. Whereas when we've played Warcry around my house, literally just pop it on the kitchen table, and it's done. You can play it on a coffee table, you can play it on the floor. Like, it's so easy to play, and you don't need to paint these 2,000 point armies. If you've already got 2,000 point armies, fantastic. Just buy a set of cards, like I said, like the Nurgle example I gave, and boom, here you are into Warcry. Now, you will need to buy the rulebook as well, and if you want to use additional things like Monsters and Mercenaries and things like the Tome of Champions was the latest book that came out, or added a few new models. If you want to play all the extras, you might want to get those books. But for the basics, you just need the basic Warcry book at the moment. And there's no, as far as I'm aware, they no longer have the big box set anymore. But to be honest, you don't need the 2 war bands that came in that box set, the Iron Golems and the Untamed Beasts, to play the game. They were just, you know, there at the start, and there are many other ways to begin your journey into Warcry, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that main box obviously was its main selling point, but they've got you got the little mausoleum set, you got the Azerite Ruin one that came out, and you got the temple kind of one that gave your own maps.
The Shattered Stormvault, that one.
If you wanted those particular maps, still you don't need it. You can just whack on a whole bunch of terrain, or no terrain if you didn't want to. You know, some of the battle plans I've seen in there don't have a lot of terrain at all, and it's more like a gladiatorial deathmatch, which is still fun. You know, luck be with the dice.
Definitely.
But you don't need none of that. All you need is your cards and understand all the rules, and you're done. You know, you can set up a table however which way you want.
And I think the first time we had a game, just in case people are wondering, it's a bit complicated. Is it complicated to learn if you're play Age of Sigmar, but you can only have one sort of game system? Am I going to be able to learn all these rules? For example, I think in our first game, before we did that, well, you bought the box. You saw a battle report online. I've never played it before. You sort of read the rule book and you explained it to me quickly, and that battle report you saw, and then we both fully understood how to play the game in a couple of turns. Like, it's a very straightforward game to learn.
Yeah, it's lovely and streamlined how straightforward it was. Like I say, with it, you know, I played it with someone who has not played Warhammer, like Age of Sigmar or anything, and within the second turn, he knew exactly what he was doing, what he had to try and do, and you know, it was then having a fun kind of like competitive game without me having to talk him through anything. And that's how, like, quick and easy it can build up for like new players.
That it's really, I don't, you know, not sound like a GW salesman or anything, but it's like, it's really good for like recruitment. That's why it's I believe people use the phrase or the term like it's a fantastic gateway game. You know, like you said, that person who never who's never played Warhammer, I don't know, but you know, they may play this and they may go, you know what, like I sort of mentioned at the start of the video, it's this is quite a good start to get into the hobby on a wider scale. Or, like I say, if you're really busy and you don't have time to play massive games and stuff, but you still want a little bit.
It's a good way of not only building a big army, But like for me personally, I have a lot of the small war bands. I think out of all the Chaos ones, I'm missing the Unmade that you have.
Yep.
And I don't have the newest ones that just came out before the lockdown.
The lovely ones. What are they called?
Shades
Spire
Tyrants.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. We've got them.
And
here
also
on the
there is
screen
another one that's meant to be coming out, the Fire Dude.
The Fire Elemental guys, which is definitely not their name. And there's also going to be like a Dark Elf one coming out, which is a Daughters of Cain one. So they're releasing stuff for more time, and like.
But it's nice having all that, the different paint methods, if you like painting different things.
Exactly, and there's and you don't have to paint them how they are on the box, obviously, of everything else. And like you say, like different paint methods. For example, I know with your what do you call it, Untamed Beast you've got. I'll get them on the screen now. Not your Pacific ones, but the GW ones. You've done things where like the much more tribal looking guys there will have face paint and all that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, that was like a real fun hobby thing for me. You know, painting. Normally, I'm painting things with a lot of armor on. It was fun having a strip right back down and going real fun tribal, trying to do practice with tribal tattoos and face paint, like you say.
And it just gives you if you play armies where you don't really come across that sort of stuff. I know they're all your slaves of darkness. They don't really have too much skin showing, do they? In most cases, so it doesn't really give you the opportunity to do all those tattoos. Here you go, and then you can use these guys in your Slaves of Darkness army if you like to, as just an example there, which I thought was cool. Like you said, you've got quite a few war bands, and I don't know, because we're close game buddies. You don't have the Unmade, but if you want to use those, you can use mine. If I want to use yours, I can use yours and play against each other. So don't feel like you all need to obviously buy the same stuff.
And it's the fact of like using. So we got Silver Tower as well, didn't we?
Yep, we got that.
And then they released the Zeech cards, and I bought them, and so behold, because you only need such a low model count, the Zangors and Acolytes pretty much fill out what you can build in a Warcry warband, and they come in the Silver Tower set that we bought ages ago.
Yeah, it's literally
so that's a Zeech force.
that's a Zeech force there, and it's literally as simple as I've got a old box of Savage Orcs, not like old models, but just like the old box that they used to come in. I think box of 10. Pardon me. And I got that to do a flayed man like House Bolton out of Game of Thrones. I needed a Savage Orc body to do it. Anyway, that's like 3-4 years ago. And now I look at that box of Savage Orcs and I'm like, I've got at least 9 in there, and I've got the Savage Orc cards, and I'm like, I could make a Warcry warband out of that one box I bought for a tiny little project ages ago. Just out of that one box, I could build a Warcry warband that I could use not just for a game. I could use that for a whole campaign. It's just really like like pound stretching all these other models. Another one is I've collected loads of armies over the years, and that's not like I've collected massive armies. Like I've had bits here and there, and I've always sort of kept little bits of armies because I don't like selling everything. So I've got a little bit of Daughters of Cain. I've got Iron Jaws. I've got Sylvaneth. I've got Skaven. I've got everything else, and as you know, Jamie, I took the Iron Jaws for a spin. I took 5 brutes. That's all my army was, and fucking hell, that was a lovely game. That was just so fun, and it was so cool to essentially play as an orc, or an orc as they're called now, an Iron Jaws, without having to invest a whole army into it. Like I recently did a why play Orc War Clans video, which I'm sure some of you guys may have seen, and that made me so much want to do an Orc War Clans, but I realised that, well, as soon as like sort of lockdown's over and stuff, I've got my warband ready to go, so I can still have that sense of feeling. That's not just when you're playing it, that's obviously when you're painting. And if I go like, I'd really like to get a war charter as an example, like, but I've got no real reason to do it. buy it and use it in Warcry. You know, there's your excuse. And I know you've got a couple of armies like that yourself, haven't you, Jamie, where you can take a few models and use them in the game.
Yeah, and it's also the fact of, with the new additions of the mercenaries and that, those cool heroes that look awesome but really have like no place in a competitive army, or even if you really like the model, even their rules might be that bad that they're not even worth putting in just for fun. Because like one model I'll give an example of is the Skull Grinder from the Khorne army. Absolutely loved him when he first came out. His rules wasn't breathtaking, but if you got it off, it massively improved your army. But then they changed him for whatever reason, and there's like literally no reason why I'd put him in my army.
In a competitive sense.
Or even in for a fun sense, you know, he's 80 points, which is cheap. But you'd rather have a judgment or something else.
I think when you're trying to build these like sort of competitive lists as well, I know what you're saying, like even for fun and stuff. But I think like, because like me and you, when we list build, we care so much about synergy, and we sort of just like, if you come across like a Skull Grinder as an example, it's like what is he adding to my force apart from just like a standalone kind of alright guy. Like doesn't give you reason to take him.
No, but then it seems like the release of their monsters and mercenaries. I'm going to touch on the monsters in a minute. But you can take heroes into like Warcry now as a mercenary into your warband, which kind of gives a fun narrative sense of your warband getting stronger. But also, in just for fun games, it's fun using those little heroes that you otherwise won't really use in big games. Like a Knight Questar, what came out for Silver Tower, he's great in Silver Tower, but in a Stormcast army, you're not really going to take him. But then in Warcry, he looks awesome, and he tears it up on the Warcry table. And there's loads of other heroes that I like that in a sense of, you can put them into your Warcry games. Like, you found out like today, you've had your Orc Mega Boss sitting around for a while.
Yeah,
and how cool would he be on just walking around, just smashing face on the Warcry table?
Yeah, it's like I say, like the love of playing like Oryx and Iron Jaws, and then like it was really cool with the brutes, and now like finding out that I can have the Orc Mega Boss, and it's like fucking Trogax hasn't had some fun for ages. This is gonna be great. So it's like it, not with the Iron Jaws. I think the Iron Jaws are pretty good in Age of Sigmar anyway. But I know what you're saying a bit earlier, where there's like the Skull Grinder was an example where Games Workshop do some amazing models, and I don't suck up to them because their models are fucking too expensive. But Games Workshop do some amazing models, and but sometimes these models are not worth taking the game for God knows what reason. Like, I would love to be able to buy a Hydra and take it to a game, and people go, "Fucking hell, that thing's broken as shit. How is that Hydra so powerful?" I think that would be awesome. However, the Hydra is not very good in Age of Sigmar at all. In fact, they had a rules update lately, and it was made shite. Well, even worse. But in in Warcry, it's got a place. It's like on par with a Terrorgeist in Warcry, which if you're completely new to Warcry, but you're fully aware of Age of Sigmar, you might think, what, a Hydra is basically as good as a Terrorgeist in this game. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I know you were going to go into monsters in a minute, but that's just like an example I wanted to give of just how much life it breathes into these unused models. I think is a good way to sum it.
Yeah, it really gives a nice narrative in having, you know, certain warriors join your warband as you get stronger through the narrative play. But also it gives a home for some of those miniatures, which you just love the look of, and you want it. You know, you want to play with it. You buy it, you want to use it most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said there,
like you say in a big game, the thing's going to die before it does anything.
Yep.
Or if it does do something, it might do 3 damage and take out 3 skeletons. It's like, oh yay, joys.
oh well, and then they come back next turn. But I agree as well. I think it's like there's always that time when you're pretty happy with your with the armies you got, your collections, in Age of Sigmar, and you think like, I don't need to butterfly. I'm pretty level-headed at the moment. This is going pretty well. You know, motivation, determination for getting your current products done, and then a new army will come out, and you go, oh, I really love that mount of character today. I really need that Carcadrak or something. Well, this will give you a reason to buy it. This will give you a reason to convince yourself that yes, you are a collector and you should buy that one-off model. So, which is like you're saying, like, oh, you go like, oh, I don't know. Again, I'm going to go to Iron Jaws. Let's say you don't have any Iron Jaws. We go, oh, I do really think a Mega Boss is cool. Gives you an excuse to buy one. You know, it really does not just help justify like buying things maybe you shouldn't, sort of thing, but it gives you a reason to always get that model you've wanted to, but you've never had an excuse to do it.
Yeah, it definitely works with that. Like we're going to the monsters. The monsters section in the Warcry. Like people who love the monsters but don't want that army, you can use them in Warcry. You know, like you said, the Terrorgeist is in there. The Zombie Dragon. You got the Gargant is in there.
So, as an example, the books I have the core rule book, and I have the Monsters and Mercenaries. I do not have the latest book that came out, but I know what that added. That added like the Sphinx and the Cyclops thing and stuff, and the Minotaur guy. But I can tell you what monsters you can get normally in the Monsters and Mercenaries expansion for Warcry. And there are a few, and the nice thing I like about them, what we've kind of touched on, and they're not like your typical ish Keepers of Secrets. So what you have some interesting things as well, like smaller things like Razor Gores and like Chaos Spawn and like Chaos Warhounds and things like Harpies and the Murder Chickens. You also have things like Chaos Gargants, so Chaos Giants. You have Gorgons, you have Cygors. So, you know, already if you're a Beast of Chaos player, you're looking at quite a few things you can probably add for your own collection. You have like an Arachnoid Spider, you have War Hydras, like I mentioned, you have the Caradris, which I hope I pronounced them right, which is like the sea creature version of the Hydra. I think it's a little bit cooler. You have a Terrorgeist, a Zombie Dragon, they just come with everything these days. And then like so far, that's kind of it. For like the big traditional monsters we have of Age of Sigmar, and like I said, you can have the Sphinx and stuff in, but I don't know 100% if they are count as a monster. But and you can also have the don't think I've read it, but it's on the screen right now, the Chimera. You can have that in Warcry as well, and it's sort of giving you, like I say, there's sometimes when you have an army, for example, Slaves of Darkness, but I think like I could ally in a Chimera, but would it work? Would I just waste my money? But I could go like, oh well, I buy it for Warcry, and then I can try it in Age of Sigmar as well. And I know like this video is why I play Warcry, and I keep on bringing the main Age of Sigmar into it. But I think you agree with me, Jamie. It's just because they cross over so much, like in terms of how you're using the models.
Yeah, obviously they're all Age of Sigmar models, and all of them can be used for both systems. You know, the ones that are in Warcry are obviously going to be in Age of Sigmar, and I think it, like we said at the beginning, it can be that starting point of, yeah, I like playing Warcry. I wonder what Age of Sigmar would be like. And then, or if it's people who play Age of Sigmar and you just want another way to use your army in a more focal point kind of setting. Because what we find when you're playing with eight models in your warband, everything they do is kind of like heightened because you've only got 8 people to focus on. It's not like you got a big 6x4 table where you're looking at loads and loads of different units, and every millimeter of a 60-man grot unit has to be quite precise.
No, exactly, and like I said, we're not getting into how Warcry, how you play it and stuff in this video, but essentially like every model moves independently and stuff, and you may think like we keep talking about, like you have like 10 plus models, that sort of thing. You might think like how is that? How am I gonna, like, especially if you're used to playing big games, you might think like, how am I gonna drive like half an hour to my game store to play with like 8 models? Like, that is a waste. Like, as fun as it is, it's a bit too short of a game, waste of journey. We've had games where they go on for 20 minutes, half an hour, and I think like the longest game we've had is like 2 hours, and that's because it was a really neck and neck between my Nighthaunt and your Deepkin, I believe, in that game, where like literally it became, without going too much into it, the last turn we're so close on like objective points that it was a little bit like Jenga, because you each move one model at a time. So I'll move a model and then Jamie will move a model. I don't have my whole turn and Jamie has his whole turn, as straightforward as Age of Sigmar. There's a lot more interaction, and it almost was like Jenga of how we could of who would win that game in the end, because it was like, well, if I move this here, just that one little chain rasp, that's going to have massive consequences, but I need to do that to try and affect the board in a different place. So it just shows how much in depth it goes into. Like, I've never thought so hard about moving like one little tiny like battle line model, as an example.
Yeah, and also to the fact of, the amount you can play, like you say, depending on the games and how tight they are and whatnot, you can maybe play 3 games of Warcry to 1 game of Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
You can fit more in. Which kind of means, and like I said, with how much little space you need, you can have maybe a few people around, and if you've got enough space to play 2 games, you can like have 4 people, and 2 people play each other, and then you swap around, and you're constantly moving on in your narrative by playing different warbands.
Exactly, you could have like a day campaign by just having, like, to be honest, if you really wanted to, on a typical kitchen table, if you really wanted to, you could probably squeeze 2 games on there at a squeeze. But if you had like a kitchen table and a coffee table in your living room, boom, you can do it. And like I say, you could have a campaign, or you could have a tiny little tournament where like you really try and play as competitive as you can, and you can play this game competitively, absolutely. Me and James just see a bit more narrative, but you can really play it competitively. So you could have a few of your mates around, 4 of you, as long as it's an even number, obviously, and have a little mini competitive tournament, and you could obviously the winner of each 2 games play in a final, and then you could each play each other, and then you could end up fighting like 3 different games, 3 different armies even. And the way how Warcry works in how we play it is the setup and the mission is all very random, so you rarely ever play the same game twice. And sometimes where you might turn up and you might go, the models I've taken it's a very bad matchup against my opponent's army, or warband in this case. But then the objective may lay itself out and you go, oh, well, my opponent really is going to struggle with this one because he needs loads of models and he hasn't got loads of models. So it's matchups are obviously important in this, but they're not as crucial as in Age of Sigmar. Would you agree with me on that one, Jamie?
Yeah, you're always going to have certain advantages depending on armies, and yeah. But you still got the the randomness of the map, the randomness of the objectives, how the game is set up with your warband, you might make a mistake early on, which then could pay dearly straight away. But it is definitely a game that you can really go, obviously, competitive wise in, because obviously there are like good combos you can do depending on your faction, and like units that you have available.
There's a lot of strategy to it.
Yeah. And there is like obviously a competitiveness to it. In the book there is competitive, the more competitive kind of objective missions in there. Because obviously some of the missions in there, if you're playing like a competitive game, can easily be really one-sided. But obviously it is more narrative driven, and you know, some of the games I've played kind of come across I quite like we've set up the game and I'm clearly the underdog, but then there's that kind of little thing of like, can I pull, you know, the rabbit out of the hat in this game and snatch a victory from what would be, when you're looking at the beginning, quite a certain defeat. But you still have fun, you know, trying to play that.
Yeah, exactly, and it's then it makes you try that a bit harder in that case. And of course, like if we have to say it, with all the different choices of warbands and armies, they all do play dramatically differently to each other, and they do all have their strengths in some scenarios and weaknesses in other. Warcry also has a fantastic campaign system to it, which starts your warband. You can grow your warband can gain artifacts and stuff depending on how they fight battles, and how the Warcry, from memory how the Warcry campaign works is it's quite good, as in you don't need loads of different opponents to fight, do you?
No, you don't need to have loads of people to fight. It is obviously nice if you have a range of different warbands to maybe change up what you're playing against. But as long as you just play the games and you're progressing on your narrative campaign, then you can still be having fun all the way along it.
Exactly.
You know, you give, because you're so low model count, you know, it has a table in there where you give your characters names. Also, you can give them your own names, and then it's like, it's a sad thing at the end of a mission if Derek had perished because you rolled a 1 on the survival table.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, like, I think the Nighthaunt names are quite funny when they weren't my guys called like the Old Gallows and stuff. I was like, that sounds
the
like
Old Gallows.
The Old Gallows. That sounds like a place and not a name of a person. But it's quite. I think the Iron Jaws ones were quite fun as well, from my memory. But yeah, there's just there's loads to it. I feel like, to be honest, now if we haven't done it the whole video, I feel like we're rambling on a bit now. But is there sort of, to bring it to a kind of end, is there anything that you would quite like to mention that we haven't talked about already?
Let me have a quick thing. I think it has that kind of, if you like telling your own stories, I think it has a great viability for that as well. So if you're someone who kind of maybe likes to venture into making your own campaign or your own kind of mission, you can definitely have fun with it, but within Warcry, because of how the game system is set up. Like, for one idea I always love the idea of is building up your little warband and then finding an opponent in terms of a faction that has a horde kind of style of troop. So let's just say, like, I'll pick Stormcast, and I have a little group of 6 Stormcast warriors, how long can they survive against an endless horde of like skeletons? So that's like they are just getting bombarded with wave of undead, and it's just like little kind of things like that. I think you can really explore with Warcry and the models that are available in Warcry.
It just adds that extra element to how you can tell tales of Age of Sigmar through gaming. And I'll be completely honest, like my sort of first thoughts on Warcry was, so going back to when we talked about the open day for Age of Sigmar, I was up at Nottingham anyway, because my brother graduated out of somewhere up there, and I was like, I'm going all the way up there for a weekend, and I want to go up there and go to Warhammer World. I also don't want to go to Warhammer World by my own, so I basically sort of convinced Jamie to go up there because I knew he liked Warcry, or the idea of Warcry. I was like, it's the open day, mate, and they're talking about Warcry, and then I sort of just pretended to be really excited to get Jamie to come. And I believe Wayne came up as well. I tricked a bunch of people into coming to the open day because I was self-centered, and I couldn't really give 2 shits about Warcry. But then we walked around. We didn't manage to get a demo game because it's so popular. But after seeing everything, it converted me really, and then I really liked it. And I was never against it because I was like, this is stupid. I was essentially, I like my big games. Small games, they're too not important to me for me to care. And then like I was massively proven wrong. I didn't realize how much fun you can have in a skirmish game, and then when you're playing it, and after you had a game, and you just realize how much fun you had, and you just put one and one together, and you just go like, I can do this, and this is going to take 1/10 of the effort of me building and painting a whole fucking army, and 1/10 of the price. It's just, there's a whole new way to play Age of Sigmar with the models you've already got. Don't feel like if you do this you're going to lose your Age of Sigmar skills because like you can only focus on one game to get the most out of it. Warcry doesn't play exactly the same as Age of Sigmar, but it is very similar, and the rules are very easy to understand, and the rules are quite streamlined. Like models don't get a save, it's quite straightforward, and yeah, I think that's it. And I feel like we've kind of repeated these sort of points quite a bit during this video, but I think that's really, to be honest, that's really how much we like this game. We realise the biggest thing we like about this game is how much value for money of your models it gives you.
It breathes an extra bit of life into your models that you've collected over the years. Especially like you say, especially like some of the older models that are in this, like the Chimera and some of the other Slaves of Darkness stuff, and some of the monsters, and some of the old heroes as well. It breathes life into them that they have, they have a nice use, and they have a nice place in which you can use them again.
Yeah, exactly. And like I mentioned, if you've already got a couple of armies, you can't really afford to start another one, or you haven't got time, but you still got that itch, and you go like, I really want to do a Daughters of Cain army, something like that. Just you really like the Medusae models, something along those lines, or the Harpies, or the Witch Elves, whatever. Just you can buy just one box of things, and build and paint them, and have a few games that might scratch the itch for you, and that's cost you, like I say, I don't know, a tiny portion to how much even a 1,000 point army would cost you. And you don't have to worry so much about, well, I have to buy this hero and that synergy piece to make everything in the army buff itself. Just buy one box of models. But it's so, especially if you're trying to play on a budget.
Oh yeah, it is definite great tabletop budget game, I'd say.
I mean, I know, so Jamie at the moment here, at the current time of filming, Saturday coming up, we've got the pre-order for the Lumineth Realm Lord, and Jamie's very much on the fence. He wants to do it because, well, not if he wants to do it, but trying to justify it to himself if he can start the army. But I know if he decides not to, when they release the Warcry cards for the Luminous Realm Lords, I guarantee that Jamie will buy 1 box of those guys, and we'll start playing them in the Warcry.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
So, yeah, exactly. It's just, it's really nice. Anyway, I'm gonna end the video here because we are just repeating ourselves, and it's mainly me. And I feel like we talked all we can on why to play. So usually when I do these videos, like I say at the start, like if you're thinking about playing this army, hopefully by the end you have an idea of either strengths or weaknesses. This one's been a little bit different. We haven't really talked about the weaknesses. I suppose weaknesses, you could say this isn't as played as much as the mainstream game as Warhammer Age of Sigmar, but you know, it's a side game, it's a box game, it's not going to, but still, I would say this is one of the most popular box games Games Workshop has released, if not the most popular, because you've got things like Necromunda that's popular and stuff. It's the most popular Age of Sigmar box game.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be around for a while.
And because of how easy it is to play, obviously depending on your local area, you should be able to find a game in your local area for sure. If you're lucky enough to have another hobbyist in your house or something like that, and you're still stuck in lockdown, you don't have space to play these massive games, why have you not ordered this already? You could be playing games right now on your kitchen table. And
yeah. That'd be the dream right now.
That would be the dream. But anyway, that's a dream. That's not for me to decide. But what else? Like weaknesses? Trying to think.
There's probably just not many at the moment. You don't really need a lot of terrain like you would in the big game.
No.
You don't really need a board. You just need anything you want to set up, really. The only thing you need is your models, the rule book, and your cards. Exactly.
I'm just trying to think in case someone points out in the comments, well, it's not good for this reason. And if you have pointed that out, thank you very much, because it's something I couldn't think of. But yeah, so like I say, it's a bit different because it's not strengths and weaknesses, and it's not if you should play an army or not. But I thought this would be a bit different for the people who are out there and watch my stuff who really like lore, because I feel like this focuses more on lore. And I know we didn't talk loads about the narrative. That's mainly because you kind of come up with the narrative yourself. In the book, there's lore and everything, but you know you can really add your own flavour to it. That's for you basically to do yourself. I have done a video on making up your own lore. You can check out for sure. Might link that at the end of this video. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So hopefully with that, you guys have considered playing Warcry. You know, it definitely is worth doing. If it's like the other way around, where it's like, well, if you want to play it and say it's like Age of Sigmar, you're going to do a massive investment going up the way. It's going down the way. If you've already got an Age of Sigmar army, you can already start playing this by just buying the core rulebook. And that's another thing I think we should mention. Like, if you want to sort of dip your toes in this, you don't need the other books. You just need the core rulebook. But you don't even need like the scenery pieces. You can just make it up yourself. That you know, you can play a whole new game system by, if you've already got an army in Age of Sigmar, by spending like 20 odd quid, how much the book is, or you know, however much that costs. Right, okay, so with that, I will eventually end it now. So I hope that everyone's enjoyed this video, and you've sort of, like I said, thought about maybe playing Warcry a little bit. For sure. I want to say a massive thank you for Jamie. Thank you very much for joining me, mate, and sharing your thoughts on the game systems itself. I'm sure everyone's glad to hear your sort of experience on it.
Yeah, no problem, mate. It was great fun.
Cool. Right, yeah, so like I say, thank you very much, everyone, for watching this. If you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. It's absolutely free for you guys to do so, and massively supports the channel. It helps YouTube know to recommend this video to other people and helps grow the channel. I want to say a massive thank you to my patrons who do a fantastic job supporting the channel best they can, and really has helped me make these videos. And yeah, so until next time, guys, remember, stay safe during lockdown, everything like that. Wash your hands, don't go in mass gatherings, for God's sake. And yeah, until next time, remember, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.